Hannah Jones, thank you so much for joining us from Realtor.com. I really appreciate you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Well, it's summertime, but why is summer of 2026 becoming the strongest buying opportunity for consumers that you've seen in years?
Yeah, so we all remember that pandemic era period where it felt like homes spent no time on the market, there were no homes for sale, and sellers could ask pretty much any price and get multiple offers. Well, dynamics have really shifted. We've seen that buyer demand has fallen and that inventory levels have risen, which means that it's a more buyer favoring market, and also that sellers are being a little bit more flexible. That means that sellers are, pricing to sell from the jump instead of listing high and then cutting prices later. However, conditions do really vary depending on where you are in the country.
So, Realtor.com, how do you help buyers and sellers in this market to move this inventory?
Yeah, so we recently released the Realtor.com Market Clock, which is a simple, intuitive tool that allows buyers and sellers and anyone in the housing market across the country to really understand their housing market conditions at a glance. So, it looks like a clock. And at noon or at 12 o'clock, that is a seller's market. At 6 o'clock, it's a buyer's market. And 3 and 9 are balanced markets. So depending on where you fall on that clock, you can understand, as a buyer, do I have more power or do sellers hold most of the power? And depending on that, you can, set your strategy accordingly.
Okay, so how do you determine where this clock is? How do you know where you fall on the clock?
Yeah, so we use a few different metrics. We use market balance, market pace, and pricing pressure to determine where you are on the clock. And you can, look up your metro and see where you fall. So, Dallas, Texas falls at 2 o'clock, which is a balanced market, which means that both buyers and sellers are in a good position. They kind of are both on stable footing in the housing market, which means that, buyers can expect to have more options and sellers can expect to have good interest on their home as long as they're pricing well.
So what smart strategies should we have once we determine where we are in the market? Do we need any smart strategies when we go out to buy or sell?
Absolutely. So for a buyer in, a balanced market or, really in any market, it's most important to really know your information, know what your budget is based on mortgage rates, and really know what you're looking for, because that enables you to move quickly once something comes on the market that you're interested in. But for sellers, in a balanced market, it means that it's really important that you are calibrating your expectations well to what's really happening in the market. So, my advice would be, know your market and make sure that you're being realistic about your home and what price you can expect to a buyer to be interested in. And as long as you're pricing well, you can expect to get good buyer interest.
Okay, before I let you go, for the buyer in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, what tips or advice do you have for them?
Yeah, so buyers in Dallas are seeing more homes on the market than they have seen in years past. They're seeing more options, but definitely in parts of the metro area, it's still very competitive. So it's important to, connect with a local agent who really has on the ground knowledge of what is going on in your target area. And then, setting your budget and making sure that you are ready to move quickly in some of those more competitive markets, but, ready to take time and consider your options if it's not quite so urgent where you live.
I want my audience to know, and remember that Hannah Jones is a senior economist at Realtor.com. Hannah, send them online so they can get more information, especially for my people who are actively looking for a place to buy or sell.
Absolutely. So you can learn more about the Realtor.com Market Clock, read the report, and find the methodology at Realtor.com/Market Clock.
Thank you so much for stopping by the Valder Beebe Show. It's going to be a great summer, especially for if you're looking for a new home. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Valder Beebe, host of the Valder Beebe Show. We have over 1,000 videos on ValderBeebeShow.com and YouTube.com/Valder Beebe Show. We upload new videos daily. Our site is a modern baby boomer platform with news and information important to boomers. Subscribe to youtube.com/ValderBB Show and stay connected as I interview the world's most fascinating people.